After his legacy Halloween trilogy, Blumhouse decided to bring David Gordon Green into helm an Exorcist sequel. I'm not sure how that happened. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit of a fan of his Halloween trilogy. I don't hate it. I don't love it either, but, you know. And Blumhouse are always a little bit hit or miss. Like, they're the company that do things like Five Nights at Freddy's or fucking Truth or Dare. So, Halloween kind of could fit into that mold. Like, it's low budget, it's very simple. Like, that original film, like, even though the sequels would try a fuck tons of other shit. At its core, the original Halloween, it's a very simple film, low budget, all of that fits into Blumhouse. The Exorcist doesn't really.
Mama!
What is it, baby?
I can't see you.
Baby, I'm right here.
I don't want to go to hell!
Good. Play that trick on you.
The original Exorcist is one of my favourite movies of all time, but I went into this movie with relatively low expectations, expecting just wanting to have fun, really. And to my surprise, in the first half, I was relatively hooked. I was quite into it. I was invested in Victor and how the film opened with him having to make this impossible choice of saving his wife or his unborn daughter, as the operation was too risky to save both, and we're led to believe he chose his daughter Angela. It sets up the story really well, and this is something I've noticed with David Gordon Green. Whilst I've only seen his Halloween movies and now this, he creates really likeable characters and believable and just characters that you want to just keep watching. But this opening sets up the story really well, and as Angela and her friend disappear, it feels very high stakes and it is very, very interesting. Two girls go disappearing one day and it turns out they think they've been gone for like 3 hours, but in reality, they've been gone for 3 days. Up until that point, the film had me. I was all in. But then the Blumhouse production kind of comes in and we start getting the jump scares and all of that. And it becomes a modern Exorcist movie. It takes a drop in quality, kind of when the girls come back and we start having these jump scares because they're not effective at all. But that is kind of the turning point for the film, unfortunately. However, I was still very much interested. The plot was still going along at a decent pace, and I still wanted to know what happened to these girls and was invested in what was going to happen next. Unfortunately though, it only gets worse from there. They bring back Chris McNeil from the original, and for not really any reason whatsoever. It leads to a stupid scene that fucking I had to try not to laugh at because it's just ridiculous. For some reason, this elderly woman is let to go upstairs on her own to see this possessed child that it's pretty safe to assume could be dangerous. And like, this is just fine. They just don't like even think about it. Everyone else stays downstairs and she goes up to see the girl. Obviously, it fucking goes wrong, and then she's out for the rest of the movie. And then to make it even worse, at the end, they bring Regan back, and it's like, I don't care. You've been out of the movie for so long, and it's like, it's so shit. Now, I wouldn't mind bringing Chris McNeil back. I think his Halloween trilogy brought back Laurie Strode in a really interesting way, if not a little bit predictable. But this film is doing its own thing, and then suddenly it becomes obsessed with being an Exorcist movie. This would have been so much better if it was unrelated to The Exorcist at all, or it was like loosely connected, like there were just references. It desperately needed to detach itself from the original. More than anything, it comes off as a fan who saw Halloween 2018 and was like, that was cool, I could do that, I want to do that for The Exorcist. And then you get this. It feels like a fan film, in a way. Now, with that said, I was never totally out of the movie. I will admit there was a few times I was close, but there was enough interesting concepts to keep me interested. Unfortunately, though, none of them are expanded on. A lot of the interesting ideas I mentioned and just kind of left at that. As shown in the trailer, these two girls are connected since being possessed, and that is another interesting idea that the film has, because it leads to the girls giving the families of each daughter a choice. You can only save one of them.
Is that Catherine's heartbeat? They're beating in sync.
One girl lives, one girl dies.
You get to choose.
That's fucking awesome. That's great. what a good idea. I'd love to see something surrounding that. It's a shame it doesn't really last, or is not, like, looked into at all. And, like I said, it's in the trailers, so I knew it was coming anyway. We do find out, though, in a little bit of a twist, where possessed Angela reveals that when Victor was given the choice at the start of the movie between saving her and his wife, he actually chose his wife. The film leads the audience to believe he chose Angela because Angela's who he's with the whole film, his daughter. But the demon reveals that, no, Victor asked them to save his wife, and yeah, that was a great reveal. I genuinely didn't see it coming, and it added another layer, it raised the tension, and it was just a really effective twist. Unfortunately, the actual exorcism is probably the worst part of the movie. There's interesting moments in it for sure, like what I've just mentioned, but it just feels so fan-filmy. That's the best way I can describe it. Which is the opposite to what the original feels like, and that's the problem. It has none of the same feeling that the original film has, despite trying to tie itself to it. We also have Nurse Anne in the film, who's played by Ann Dowd, I think that's how you say her name, who was Joan in Hereditary. Great to see her, she's great. But at the end of the movie, she's just spelling out the meaning of the film, and there's so many stupid lines in it, I couldn't even keep count. I was also just never truly scared. The movie's not scary at all, like I say. There was one jump scare that did get me, and yeah, fair play, but it was just a loud fucking noise. It lacks the atmosphere that the original has, and that it feels like it wants to do, but has no idea how to do it. And also the story that it's telling requires that kind of feeling. Despite everything I've said here though, I kind of had a fun time with it. Probably partially because of my low expectations, because as I said, there are so many ideas that I can see and really like, but they're just desperately in need of expansion. Also, I'd been up since 3 AM that morning, and the showing was at 8:45. We tried to go to an earlier showing, but it was cancelled because the screen was broke, so I might have just been delusional at the time. I really like the new characters. I think everyone's written really well and performed really well, and I love the setup and I love how the plot kicks into gear. The mystery, and even when the jump scares start rolling in, I'm engaged, but it just drops so hard as you go on. It feels forcefully tied to the original, and that is absolutely its biggest detriment. And by the end of the movie, I wasn't nearly as engaged as I was half an hour in, and it ends up just being a bit of a... It was a movie that happened, and that was it.